Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
You're frozen. The deadline's approaching. You do not have all the data. And everybody wants certainty, but you can't give it. Does this sound familiar? Maybe it's a hiring decision with 3 qualified candidates and red flags on each one. Or a product launch where the market research is mixed. Or a career pivot for yourself where you can't predict which path leads where. You want more information, more time, more certainty. But you're not going to get it. Meanwhile, a small group of professionals, poker players, venture capitalists, military strategists, consistently make better decisions than the rest of us in exactly these situations. Not because they have more information, but because they've mastered something fundamentally different. They think in probabilities, not certainties. I learned this the hard way. I once created a biometric security algorithm that the NSA reverse engineered, where I mastered probabilistic thinking perfectly in the technology, then I made every wrong bet with the business around it. By the end of this episode, you'll possess a powerful mental toolkit that transforms how you approach uncertainty. You'll learn to estimate likelihoods without perfect data. Update your predictions, your beliefs as new information emerges. Make confident decisions when multiple uncertain factors collide. And act decisively even when you cannot guarantee the outcome. This is the difference between paralysis and power, between gambling recklessly and betting wisely. So, what is probabilistic thinking? What does it entail? At its core, it's the practice of reasoning in terms of likelihoods rather than absolutes, thinking in percentages instead of yes or no answers. Instead of asking, will this work, you ask, what are the odds this will work? And what are the consequences if it doesn't? This approach acknowledges that the future is uncertain and that every decision carries risk. By qualifying that uncertainty and weighing it against potential outcomes, you make smarter choices, even when you cannot eliminate the unknown. So, what is this cost of demanding certainty? Today's world punishes those who demand certainty before acting. Research from Oracle's 2023 Decision Dilemma Study, which surveyed over 14,000 employees and business leaders across 17 countries, and found that 86% feel overwhelmed by the amount of data available to them. So rather than clarity, all that information creates decision paralysis, and the paralysis has real consequences. When you can't be certain, we freeze. We endlessly research options, seeking that final piece of data that will guarantee success in what we choose. We postpone critical decisions, wait for perfect information that never arrives. Meanwhile, opportunities pass us by, problems get worse, and competitors who are comfortable with uncertainty move forward. This demand for certainty doesn't just slow us down, it exhausts us. Decision fatigue sets in as we agonize over choices, draining our mental resources until we're either make impulsive decisions, oh my gosh, don't do that, or worse, avoid deciding altogether. Neither outcome serves us well. So, here's what it looks like in real life. Let's say you're the VP of marketing. Your CMO wants a decision on next quarter's campaign budget by Friday. You have 3 agencies to choose from, each with strengths and weaknesses. So you ask for more data. You run customer focus groups. You do a detailed competitive analysis. You go do agency references. By Wednesday, you're drowning in spreadsheets and conflicting opinions. Friday arrives. You still cannot be certain which choice is right, so you ask for an extension. 2 weeks later, you finally pick one. Not because you're confident, but because you're exhausted and the CMO is furious about the delay. The campaign launches late. You've burned political capital, and you still have no idea if you made the right choice. Meanwhile, your competitor's marketing VP looked at the same decision, spent 2 hours assessing the probabilities, and launched on time. If it works, great. If it doesn't, they'll pivot. They don't need certainty. They needed enough information to make a good bet. That's the tax you pay for demanding certainty. Missed timing, exhausted teams, and decisions that made from fatigue anyways, rather than really using your judgment. Meanwhile, a small group of professionals thrive in these exact conditions. Professional poker players like Annie Duke, who I actually hosted up at one of my events up at Keystone, phenomenal talk, by the way. Annie understands that good decisions leads to bad outcomes. If you are looking for the really perfect solution, and bad decisions sometimes get lucky. So you can make a good decision waiting for all that information, you can have a bad outcome. You can make a bad decision, just pick one randomly, and sometimes you get lucky. So they judge their choices by process, not results. That's how Annie does it. That's how venture capitalists do it. It's how the military does it. Venture capitalists often see that most of their investments will fail. Maybe 1 out of 20 make it successful, but they bet anyways because one success out of that 20 can return the entire fund. Military strategists make life or death decisions with incomplete intelligence, not because they're reckless, but because waiting for perfect information means defeat. The difference isn't access to better information. It's the willingness to act on probabilities than certainties. So how do you make better decisions when nothing is certain? How do you do this? How do you develop this skill? It's more accessible than you might think. Here are clear strategies to transform how you process uncertainty and how do you make decisions. Strategy number 1, we're going to cover 3. Strategy number 1 is think in ranges, not points. The first shift in probabilistic thinking is abandoning single number estimates for ranges of possibility. When most people predict an outcome, they pick one number. Sales will be $50,000 next quarter, or this project will take 3 months. But the world doesn't work that way. Every estimate carries uncertainty, and pretending otherwise sets you up for failure. Professional forecasters think differently. They don't ask what will happen, they ask what's the range of possible, plausible outcomes, and how likely is it for each? This approach forces you to acknowledge what you do not know while still making useful predictions. Watch a professional poker player decide whether to call a bet. They're not thinking, do I have the best hand? They're thinking, given what I've seen, maybe a 35% chance I have the best hand, 20% chance my opponent is bluffing, 45% chance they got me beat. They act on probabilities, not certainties. So, let's talk about the steps in this first strategy. Step number 1, replace point estimates with probability ranges. When making any prediction, state a range instead of a single number. Instead of we'll close 50 deals, say we'll likely close 40 to 60 deals with a small chance that it could be 30 or 70. Step number 2, assign rough percentages to your ranges. You don't need mathematical precision, just honest self-assessment. Make an estimate, like a 60% chance of 40 to 50 deals, 30% chance of 50 to 60 deals, 10% chance outside that range. This forces you to think about likelihood, not just possibility. Step 3, track your estimates against actual outcomes. Just keep a simple log of your predictions. Get an index card on the side of your desk, write it down, keep track of what actually happened. Over time, you'll discover if you're consistently over-optimistic, over-cautious, or actually pretty well calibrated. This feedback loop is how you improve. Look at it regularly and recalibrate. What is your gut telling you, and how does it usually work out with your estimates? Okay, stepping on to strategy number 2 of the 3. Update your beliefs with evidence. Update your predictions with new data. One of the most powerful aspects of probabilistic thinking is treating your beliefs as hypotheses, not conclusions. When new information emerges, skilled thinkers update their probability estimates rather than clinging to their original positions. This practice, called Bayesian updating, after the mathematician Thomas Bayes. It's how professionals stay accurate in rapidly changing environments. Consider a doctor diagnosing a patient with intermittent chest pain. Initially, based on the patient's age and health history, she estimates up to 15% probability of heart disease. Then the EKG comes back with minor abnormalities, not definitive, but concerning. She updates her estimate to 35%. Blood work shows elevated cardiac markers. Now she's at 65%. Each piece of evidence shifts the probability, but none gives absolute certainty. She doesn't wait for 100% certainty to act. She orders more tests, starts precautionary treatment based on her updated 65% estimate. That's Bayesian thinking in action. Financial firms continuously adjust their models as new data arrives. Weather forecasters update storm predictions hourly. In my own work building biometric security systems used at the NSA, we updated our false acceptance and rejection rate constantly, but I failed to apply the same updating framework to the business model itself. The enemy of updating is confirmation bias, our tendency to accept information that supports our existing beliefs and dismiss information that contradicts them. When you're emotionally invested in being right, you'll consciously filter evidence to protect your original view. So, what are the steps to updating your thinking? There's 4 of them. Step 1, start with a baseline probability before you have strong evidence. If you're launching a new product estimate based on what I know about similar products, there's maybe a 40% chance this succeeds. That's your starting point, before specific evidence comes in. Step 2, when new information arrives, ask how much should this change my estimate? Not all evidence is equal. Strong evidence, like actual customer purchases, should move your probability significantly. Weak evidence, like one person's opinion, should barely budge it. Step 3, separate the quality of the decision from the quality outcome. This is crucial. A good decision based on sound probabilities can still result in bad outcomes due to chance. Conversely, a terrible decision can get lucky every once in a while. Judge yourself whether you correctly assess the probabilities and acted accordingly, not on whether you get it right this time. Now, step 4, actively seek disconfirming evidence. Evidence that says that you're not getting it right. Force yourself to look for that information that contradicts your current view. If you think your strategy will work, deliberately search for reasons it might fail. This counteracts confirmation bias and gives you a more accurate probability assessment. Now, the last strategy, this is the 3 of 3, make decisions by expected value. You can go through and do the first 2 strategies, but first of all, set your estimate. Second strategy was what? Update your information. Do not get caught in confirmation bias. Strategy 3, make the decision. Probabilistic thinking isn't just about estimating out, it's about acting on them. The concept of expected value gives you a framework for making decisions when outcomes are uncertain. Expected value multiplies each possible outcome by its probability, then adds them all together. It's how professionals decide whether a bet is worth taking. Why it matters. Sometimes a decision with low probability of success is still the right choice if the potential payoff is enormous. Venture capitalists know that perhaps 18 or 19 out of 20 startups in their portfolio will fail or return little to no money. But that one company that becomes the next Airbnb or Uber can return 100x their investment, more than covering for all the losses. That's positive expected value thinking. Conversely, decisions that seem safe can be terrible bets. Playing it safe might give you a 90% chance of mediocre success. But if that 10% downside risk includes catastrophic consequences, the expected value might be negative. That is why you buy insurance. The probability of your house burning down is low, but the cost, if it happens, can be devastating. Think about parents choosing between schools for their kids. Public schools are free, but overcrowded. Private schools cost $20,000 a year with smaller classes, but adds an hour of family stress daily. Charter schools are free with innovative curriculum, but it's a first year program with unknowns, or early program in many cities and states. Or in my case, we homeschooled. What is it? There's no guarantee. The better question, expected values, given the probabilities of what matters most to us: academic success, family time, financial stability, which bet has the best expected outcome? So the steps for expected value decision making. Step 1 of the 4, list all plausible outcomes for your decision, not just the best and the worst. For a job offer, don't just think great career move versus that's a terrible mistake. Consider modest improvement, 40%, breakthrough opportunity to 20%, it's a lateral move, 25%, step backwards, 10%, complete disaster moving to this new organization, maybe it's 5%. So, step 2, assign a rough value to each outcome. This doesn't have to be money. It can be career satisfaction, life quality, time saved, or any currency that matters to you. The key is making the values comparable across all the outcomes. Step 3, multiply each outcome's value with its probability, then you add them all up. This gives you the expected value. If the positive expected value option has meaningful downside risk, ask, can I survive the worst case? If yes, it's usually the right bet. Step 4, remember, expected value is about long-term results, not single instances. If you make a high expected value bet and it fails, that doesn't mean you were wrong. Over many decisions, following expected value will outperform any other approach. Trust the math, not the emotional reaction to one outcome. So let's practice this. How are you going to put this in action in your life? The practical way to develop your probabilistic thinking is to keep a probabilistic forecast journal. You have to keep track of your estimates to know where you're at. This exercise builds calibration, your ability to accurately assess how you're confident you should be in your predictions. It's what sometimes I refer to as tuning your gut, tuning that feeling of, should I really go for this? Should I not go for this? This is making me uneasy. Wow, I think this is great. You want to tune that. So here's how to implement it. So step 1, this is a 4. Choose 3 areas where you regularly make predictions. This could be work related, like project timeline, sales numbers. Personal, will your flight be delayed? Or current events, an election outcome. Step 2 of 4, each week make 5 specific testable predictions. Write down those predictions and assign that probability. For example, 70% chance the client approves our proposal by Friday, or 85% of our website traffic increases this month. Step 3 of 4, after each prediction resolves, record the actual outcomes. Did the thing that you said had a 70% chance of happening actually happen? Don't judge yourself harshly on any single prediction. Remember that a 70% prediction should fail about 30% of the time, right? Step 4, monthly, analyze your calibration. Look at all your predictions where you said 70% confident, did roughly 70% of them come true? If you're consistently overconfident, you need to adjust. If you're underconfident, you're being too cautious. The goal is not perfection, it's calibration. After several months of this practice, you'll notice your ability to assess probabilities improve dramatically. You know when you're 60% sure versus 90% sure, and you'll make better decisions as the result. So, what's the reward for all this today? Mastering probabilistic thinking is a journey, not a destination. It requires practice, humility about what you don't know, and the courage to act despite uncertainty. But the rewards are substantial. When you think probabilistically, you make faster decisions because you're not paralyzed waiting for certainty that will never come. You become more resilient to failure because you understand that good decisions sometimes have bad outcomes. And that's not a reason to change your approach. You'll find yourself taking calculated risks that others avoid, capturing opportunities that demand action before perfect information arrives. You'll waste less time second guessing yourself because you've already thought through the probabilities and made your peace with uncertainty. You'll explain your decisions more clearly to others because you can articulate not just what you think will happen, but how confident you are and why. Most importantly, you'll stop confusing confidence with correctness. In a world obsessed with appearing certain, probabilistic thinkers have the courage to say, hey, I'm 65% sure that's enough to act. That honesty with yourself and others is the foundation of better judgment. Want to see what happens when you master probabilistic thinking in one domain but fail to apply it in another? I wrote about my experience creating a fingerprint biometric recognition algorithm that the NSA reverse engineered, where I got the technical probabilities right and the business bets completely wrong. Link is in the bio. Go check it out over on Substack. Now, look, the future will always be uncertain. The question is whether you'll be paralyzed by that uncertainty or empowered by it. So, if this is helping you think differently about decision making, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps others find this content through the algorithm. And click that notification bell so that you don't miss a single episode in this whole series. If you want to go deeper, I share the behind the scenes thinking, the mistakes I've made, and extended stories over on Studio Notes on Substack. Again, link in the bio. A paid subscription over on that Substack helps cover the cost of the team that makes all of this possible. The editing, the research, the production work that gets these episodes to you each and every week. None of that money comes to me. It all goes to supporting the team. Without this team, there would be no podcast, no YouTube channel, and no articles. So if you find value in the work that's in a meaningful way to help keep it going, hop on over to Substack and become a paid subscriber. Now, keep in mind as I wrap this up, the future will always be uncertain. Nobody has perfect ability to predict. The future will always be uncertain. The question is whether you'll be paralyzed by it or empowered by it. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.